Welcome to HOMT 614 Hospitality and Tourism Strategy, and this is our second session. And in today's session, we'll be looking at strategy and strategic objectives for tourism and hospitality. Now, before we set out into the depths of a course on strategy, it's important that we understand what the concept strategy is all about. And understanding strategy means starting from the basis of what strategy is, as well as how strategic objectives are formulated, which will lead us into all the other aspects of strategy that we are going to discuss throughout this course. Hence our topic for today's session. And as usual, by the end of the session, there are certain learning outcomes we hope to achieve. The first one is that by the end of the session, you should be able to define strategy and explain what it entails in practice. And you should also be able to explain Mintzberg's 5 Ps framework of strategy, which details the various forms in which strategy takes in practice for organizations. And then we will also be able to distinguish between strategic, tactical, and operational decisions, detailing how decision-making is done at the various levels of the organization as it pertains to the overall strategy. And then finally, you'll be able to explain the nature of strategic objectives and their varied constituents. So on that note, let's begin by asking the question, why strategy? So historically, strategy takes its roots in the military, right? During times of war, we always hear the military talking about the strategy with which they are going to approach the war, the strategy with which they are going to fight the war. And this is usually decided by the commanders who come together and decide the different tactics that they are going to use to come at the enemy to ensure that they win the war that they are going for, right? So it's the same concept that we are applying in business. And it's basically the same way the military puts together ploys and tactics to outwit their opponents and win the war. When it comes to business, organizations also try to put together tactics and strategies to outmaneuver their rivals, because business is all about competition and the survival of the fittest. So organizations always have to come together to take firm decisions regarding how they are going to behave in relation to their numerous competitors and the various circumstances in their environment to be able to ensure that they survive and make a profit. And the hospitality and tourism industry is not an exception. So basically, why strategy? We need strategy because strategy is all about thinking ahead regarding key issues that will affect your organization. And we cannot escape from all these issues that will be happening, some within the control of the organization and some that are not within the control of the organization. And as managers, you can't afford to be sitting ducks just waiting to experience whatever happens. So strategy is important because it pushes you as a manager to think ahead, to be able to put in place measures to prepare for these unforeseen and foreseen events, as well as forestall the perhaps negative effects that they may have, and also take advantage of the positive effects that all these occurrences will have on your business. And that is why strategy is important. So when we are saying it is important for managers to strategize, we also need to be cognizant of the fact that formulating strategy is not an easy task, and it involves a lot of moving parts and individuals within the organization. So it makes the process somewhat cumbersome and difficult. Again, it is also very difficult to sit at one place and try to think ahead, because it is virtually impossible, right, to be able to imagine and think of all the possible scenarios of changes that could happen, or occurrences or uncertainties that could affect your business. And because of that, we have to do our best to come as close as possible to imagine as many of these occurrences and uncertainties as we can, to be able to try our best to put in place measures to at least be prepared for some of them, even though we know we cannot prepare for everything. Hence the need for strategic management, because we cannot be able to imagine everything. However, through strategic management, using different tools and concepts and techniques and frameworks, we can be able to develop some kind of model to help us to think ahead considering the unique circumstances of our organizations in relation to a number of factors, which we will discuss in our next session concerning the strategic process. Because considering the strategic process, we'll be able to understand from the strategic management perspective the different levels of scenarios and elements that could constitute changes and preempt or lead to certain occurrences in our environment that can affect our businesses. So strategic management is the means by which we are able to strategize using different concepts and frameworks and tools and techniques. And we will be learning about all these frameworks, concepts, tools, and techniques throughout this course. So on the basis of that, what is strategy? Strategy, according to Chandler 1962, is basically the determination of the basic long-term goals and objectives of an enterprise. So that's the first element of strategy, being the determination of the basic long-term goals and objectives, as well as the adoption of courses of action. Because once you come up with the objectives, you need to be able to create certain courses of action to ensure that these goals and objectives that you have created can be achieved. And then the allocation of the resources necessary for carrying out these goals. Because it's not enough to set the goal and determine the course of action to use to achieve it. You also need to be able to know the resource allocation that is required for it, and then be able to obtain these resources and deploy them in a manner that will help you towards achieving these goals. So this is the definition of strategy. And based on this definition we've just seen, there are three main elements. The first one being the determination of the basic long-term goals and objectives. And this is necessary because the objectives serve as some kind of roadmap that everyone is supposed to look on to ensure that they are charting the right course towards achieving the organization's overall objectives, again, or overall goals, overall ambitions. Because without having something to look on, and we are saying that these long-term goals and objectives have to be coherent. Because if they are not coherent, everyone in the organization will not be able to follow this roadmap consistently towards achieving these ambitions that the organization has. So we are saying the long-term objective determination concerns the conceptualization of coherent and attainable strategic goals. Please, have you all heard of the SMART criterion for objective formulation? The SMART acronym.
Yes, please.
Good. Please, what does it stand for? The
Yes.
S. Yes, Kwame.
Yes, please.
Doc, please, just a quick one. One of our
Please go
colleagues
ahead.
is unable. One of our colleagues is unable to join. She's telling me that she has problems joining. So I don't know whether there is a problem with accepting her online. Is there anything like that?
I disabled
Okay,
the
so-
waiting room, so there's no waiting room. You can just
Very
join,
well.
and then even if you go off, you can come back again. So it's not from
Okay,
our end.
all right.
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you very much. I'll
You're
let her. Thank
welcome,
you.
Kwame. Yes, please. Okay, so on the SMART criterion for objectives, can we please go through the elements of the acronym? What does the S stand for?
Specific.
Specific, good,
Specific,
good. And then the M,
measurable,
good.
Attainable.
And then the A,
Attainable.
attainable,
good. The attainable is here, isn't it?
Yes.
And then the R,
Realistic.
realistic, right? But you know,
Mhm.
realistic and attainable are synonymous.
Mm-hmm.
So people tend to make that mistake all the time and say realistic. But it's actually supposed to be what? I remember I mentioned this some time ago. Messi, did you remember? The R
Relevant.
is good, relevant.
Relevant.
Good.
Relevant.
Good,
Yes,
good. So the R is for relevant, and then the T is for what?
time
Time-bound.
yeah.
Time bound,
Yes, time
good.
bound.
So
Yeah.
the SMART acronym applies in this context, even though all the acronyms are not presented here, right? In addition to coherence, because if all these criteria are not met, the next steps of strategy will be very difficult to achieve, right? Because without these objectives in this form that we have mentioned, including the specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound, nothing else in the organization can happen because nobody will have a direction. Nobody will have a focus, right? So we need the objectives so that we can all as a collective know where we want to go, and then we can subsequently decide how we are going to get there. And in deciding the how we are going to get there, we go to the next element of strategy, which is the adoption of what? Courses of action. Because the objectives tell us as a collective, this is our ambition. This is what we want to become. So the courses of action will now break down what we want to become into the specific things we have to do to get to where we want to be. Jemima, welcome.
Oh, thank you.
You're
I was
welcome.
using the wrong links.
Sorry about that. Okay, so once we are able to determine the specific courses of action that we are going to take to achieve these objectives, we now have to look at the allocation of resources, right? Because so as the popular saying goes, money makes the world go round. But the resources are not just in terms of financial. We can talk about non-financial resources as well. So we need to determine the various cost elements, being it financial or non-financial, associated with the different courses of action that we want to take. And once we are able to do that, we look at which courses of action our current resource levels can support, and the ones that our current resource levels cannot support. And once you are able to do that, you'll be able to determine whether these actions can be put on the back burner for a future date, or you will go out of your way to be able to obtain the resources necessary to take these courses of action. All of that is part of the strategic process. Hence, these three main elements of strategy. So when you're strategizing, these are the basic things that you'll be doing. You'll be setting objectives, determining courses of action, and then allocating resources to each of these courses of action to ensure that this ambition that you have for your organization is achieved. Please, I hope that makes sense.
Sure.
Great. All right. So now that we know the elements of strategy, let's talk about Mintzberg's 5 P's of strategy. So according to Mintzberg, when you talk about strategy in organizations, it usually takes a particular form, right? And he identified 5 of these forms. Now, based on his identification and conceptualization, which he did through research, he noticed that these different forms of strategy could appear in one particular organization. So the fact that there are different forms of strategy doesn't mean that an organization is limited to operating or applying just one. An organization could be seen applying more than one of these different forms of strategy. And they include strategy in the form of a plan, strategy in the form of a ploy, strategy in the form of a particular pattern of behavior, strategy in the form of a position in respect to others, and then strategy in the form of perspective. So we are going to take these one after the other, and then we will break them down, starting from strategy as a plan. So according to Mintzberg, strategy as a plan implies something that the organization intentionally puts in place. So we've heard of this thing where organizations always have this strategic plan, right? A 2-year strategic plan, 5-year strategic plan, 10-year strategic plan. Please, I believe we've all heard of these plans. Have we?
We have.
Good.
Yes, please.
Good. All of these come under strategies in the form of a plan, right? And here, planners tend to produce these documents internally that detail what the company or the organization will be doing for a period of time into the future, based on whatever ambition they have by the end of that period. So when you take the business school, for instance, we have a strategic plan, right? Which details what we hope to achieve, I believe, in the next 5 years. It was launched somewhere last year, or I believe the year before that. And it details a number of things, including us being able to achieve, we are trying to get ourselves internationally accredited, right? So it details a number of steps that we hope to achieve, because the accreditation process goes through various stages over an extended period of time. So the strategic plan details how we are going to go through all these different stages of the process to the end, right? It includes schedules. So for organizations like the business school, as well as other organizations, depending on the kind of business that they are into. In our case, we are looking at the hospitality and tourism industry. Could include a schedule for perhaps new product launches, right? So service organizations also launch new products. And when I look at the strategy of various organizations in the hospitality industry, particularly the hotels, I'm always disappointed to some extent, because it's like they all sell the same thing. Kwame, am I wrong?
You are very right.
They are not very ingenious and creative about the strategies that they put in place to raise money or to get business. And the options are limitless, right? Okay, so I'm going to do free consultancy this morning. Let me give you a typical example.
Thank you.
So remember last session, we talked about the different kinds of tourism. Now, looking at the different kinds of tourism alone, I can see hotels building products around the different kinds of tourism. So they could have a culinary tourism package where they bring people from abroad as part of a full package to experience Ghana's culinary delicacies, right? So they organize the trip. They get the people to sign onto the package, which will include room and board, and then you will be able to travel to different places. The hotel will organize all this. The hotel will provide transportation. The hotel will organize the food at the various locations that you will go to. However, you'll be doing a regional tour, tasting all these different kinds of food, experiencing the authentic tastes of Ghana from region to region. And the hotel will organize this as a package and charge a fixed price for it. And for it being organized by a particular hotel that has a reputation, the tourists will be more eager to sign on to it because they can guarantee the safety of the food that they are eating, because this hotel is putting their reputation on the line to guarantee the safety of the food they are eating, their safety as tourists, getting them to and from each of these places to taste this food, making sure that they have good places to sleep, they are drinking good water, their safety is assured and all that. This is a whole package that a hotel can do. Kwame, is that a bad idea or not?
It's a very good idea.
Very good idea.
I'm laughing because very good. I'm laughing, or maybe I'm giggling because you see, our hotels, the very big ones, are very limited. One, there's two, the targets. You know, everybody is targeted at doing one thing or the other. Maybe we are not getting our targets right. Yeah, that's what I'll say for now. Maybe we are not getting our targets right. Maybe we should rethink.
Exactly. Right, Kwame, maybe you people can start. That's why you people are doing the strategy course. Maybe you can start alerting them to this, that the possibilities are limitless if they can just sit down and start thinking. Right, so that's a typical example of a plan, right? The plan can include all these different things.
Right? I agree with you.
Yeah. So that is it for plan strategies. We can also talk about ploys. Now, ploys are not as long-term as plans. They are usually more of, we can call them ad hoc strategies, right? So they are generally meant for a short period of time. And they usually contain very detailed tactical actions that are supposed to be taken, often with the mind of outwitting an opponent or competitor. Now, ploys become necessary when, like I said, there's an ad hoc decision to take a certain line of action to counter something that a competitor is doing, that perhaps if the organization does not respond to, will destabilize them in the long run. So a competitor starts doing something that is gaining so much attention, and then all of a sudden, you decide that, okay, we need to respond to this. Otherwise, we will be left behind. So ploys are generally that kind of strategy that is designed to respond, right, as a maneuver to a competitor's line of action to try and outwit them. Now in Ghana here, like I said, the hospitality and tourism industry is already, how do I put it? They do not necessarily compete that intensely with each other because all of them are offering almost the same thing. So the lines of differentiation are very limited. So we do not see apparent competition that is very intense between them. The only competitiveness I have seen among them is in terms of their room rates and then the cost of their food. Kwame, correct me if I'm wrong. Yes, please go ahead.
Doc, I commit me to try to put across an observation.
Please go ahead.
What I think, first of all, is because we don't have very formal know-how in the field. Two, entrepreneurs are not ready to come out. For instance, let me share my experience. I started as a salesperson.
Yeah.
In the field after doing my bachelor's in marketing.
Mm-hmm.
Then when I went into the field accidentally, just like I mentioned previously, I went in there and I told my MD calls me and says, okay, I just want things to work. I don't care about your strategies. I don't want to know about your strategies. Just get me business. Let the place boom. Yeah. That's it. So for me, I put in my own strategies when I became a marketing manager. I put in my own strategy and I motivated myself. There was no motivation from the company. So I had to go sit down. And there were times I wasn't assigned a vehicle. I mean, any vehicle. There are times I had to use any vehicle. Right? So I've come from down, become a very hard salesman because there were times I even had to use a vehicle that was used for when I started as a marketer, I was going to the field with a vehicle that they took to market to buy stuff.
Oh no.
So yes. So I've become a very strong person. Yeah. That's just by the way. But what I realized is that we don't want to, owners or entrepreneurs into this business don't want to listen to any strategy. They want you to, so you give birth to the strategy. If you don't take them, you put in your own
resources sometimes.
They're very big ones as well, because they are thinking about how to take care of their overheads and then pay salaries.
Yeah.
Please, that's what I have to say for now.
Yeah, I agree with you. But the funny thing is that without these strategies, there's no sustainable way of ensuring the income to pay these overheads and pay these employees' salaries.
You are right, Doc. You're right.
So you realize that, like you were saying, you were using a lot of ploys, a lot of short-term stuff to be able to make sure that you bring the figures in. You see, so there's the need for some kind of long-term thinking, some kind of long-term planning. Mercedes, your hand is up. Please go ahead.
I think I'll side with Kwame here a bit in terms of, as in all that he said, because in my field of work, when we do right now, I'm doing a bit of a corporate governance for some of these banks, and when you look at it, you realize that they put in a lot of effort when it comes to developing their strategy.
Yeah.
So you realize that at least for the 4 or so banks that have done so far, you realize that they're on top of their game. They know
Mercedes, please, not to cut you, please let me take a wild guess. Are these multinational banks?
So far we've done, one is multinational. Okay, 2. One is Nigerian. Another one is Ghanaian, not really Ghanaian owned, Nigerian owned, yes.
Okay,
but
so they are all international.
Yes, I'd say, yeah.
Okay.
And I think they put in a lot of efforts in this developing their strategy. And when you look at their strategy, you can see that like a thought process has actually gone on.
Yes.
And a lot of brainstorming, a lot of seeking resources, like all the things that we've discussed, like the first couple of slides just says it all.
Yeah.
So like you said, if the hospitality and tourism industry can also sacrifice a bit and decide to, let's say, take 2-3 days out of their busy into bracket schedule and then go and sit maybe outside Accra some place and think through, because I realized that the banks, that's what they do. They don't sit in Accra to develop these things, because they know if they're in Accra, their staff will come, oh, do this for me, sign this for me. But if they're not in Accra, there's no way they are going to come to the this officer and say, MD, please, I need you to sign this. He's not around.
Yeah.
So at that place, they have full concentration. They know exactly what they came there to do, and they make sure that they execute it accordingly.
Exactly.
Yes. I think, Kwame, after learning this course, I think we would have to assist some of them.
You really have to.
That's so right. You're so right.
Yeah.
I'm learning a lot.
Because exactly, that is what makes the difference between you and them.
At some fee, you know.
Yeah, so I'm really happy about this.
Yes. It's very.
Thank you so much for sharing, Mercedes and Kwame.
Welcome.
Yeah, I'm really happy. Dr. Kwame will be happy to hear that you people are really seeing the value of your money.
We are.
All right, so that is it for ploy strategies. We can also talk about pattern strategies. And here, pattern strategies are basically a pattern of behavior, right? Which forms part of their strategy. So they behave in a particular way. And unlike planned employees, patterns happen as a result of consistency. So it's not about just setting the plan or developing the ploys. You have to have consistency when it comes to implementing the provisions of these plans and ploys. Otherwise, you will not be able to see the cumulative growth towards getting to this ambitious level that you have set for yourself. So pattern strategies are also very important. We can also talk about position strategies. And here, position strategies come in where it's all about the organization trying to position itself in a particular way in relation to its competitors. So all the strategies that they put together are to be able to build and create a particular position for themselves in the industry. If it is to become the market leader or to become the number one. And here we have seen this happen exponentially in the telecommunications industry, where one organization entered the telecom industry. They had a plan, they had a strategy, and they were consistent in terms of their patterns of behavior towards implementing this strategy, and they earned a number one position for themselves. That's why when Ghana government was trying to kick out MTN, I was so sad, because they had worked hard in terms of strategy to get to where they were. And anybody who had been following their growth could see the consistent cumulative actions towards achieving this ambition of becoming number one in the Ghanaian telco space. So positioning strategy has to do with exactly what they have been able to do for themselves, where the organization is looking towards achieving a particular position, perhaps in terms of market share, having a certain percentage of the market share belonging to them, or having a certain level of profitability, or being known in the industry for something perhaps in the area of superior research, or perhaps being the most reputable in the industry, right? These are all examples of position strategies that organizations in the hospitality and tourism industry could come up with. And then finally, we can talk about perspective strategy. And these are all about changing the culture of a certain group of people, right? And I think from what Kwame was saying regarding entrepreneurs who usually own these firms and organizations in the hospitality and tourism industry, it's about putting in place strategies to change their perspective, to be able to appreciate the role of strategy formulation in having a sustainable means of earning this income that they desire so much, a sustainable means of getting to this position of profitability that they desire so much, right? So perspective strategies will help to change this mindset, change these beliefs and the way they look at the world and the way they look at their organization in respect of its position in the hospitality and tourism industry. So that once the mindset of the owners, the employees, and the people are able to be aligned towards the strategy that has been designed or is going to be designed and how it's going to help them to achieve success, they will find it easier to collectively work towards achieving this overall strategy and plan that has been set. So like I said in the beginning, you could see organizations applying more than one of these kinds of strategies that have been outlined by Mintzberg as part of their overall organizational strategy. You could see a plan strategy at some point, a ploy strategy at some point, a perspective strategy at some point, a position strategy at some point. The idea is to put together everything in a coherent manner towards achieving the great ambition that the organization has set for itself. So with that, we've come to the end of the discussion on Mintzberg's 5 P's of strategy and how they play out in terms of practice in the hospitality and tourism industry. So now let's talk about the levels of strategic decision-making. Now, these strategies we have talked about and the various elements of strategy are designed and implemented along the structure of the organization. Now, from basic management and organizational theory, we know that the organization can be designed in the form of a pyramid, starting from the topmost part of the organization, or the topmost or apex of the pyramid being the strategic level, and then the middle level of the pyramid being the tactical level, and then the lower level of the pyramid being the operational level. Now, as we go from the apex to the base, we see that the number of employees broadens and widens. And the most impactful decisions are made at the apex of the pyramid by the smallest number of people who we refer to as the top management or the strategic management people. Then as we get to the middle level, we get to the tactical level where we have a lot of the departmental managers who are responsible for translating all the decisions that are made at a strategic level into the courses of action that will help to achieve these decisions that have been taken at the top. And at the operational level, it's all about the employees and then the unit heads who engage in the day-to-day runnings of the organization and are supposed to implement day-to-day activities and tasks that will help to achieve the various courses of action set at the tactical level, which together will help to achieve the ambition that those at the strategic level have designed for the organization. So we realize that in terms of decision making from top to bottom, there are various forms that the decisions that are taken have or take, depending on the dimension from which you're looking at it. So we'll look at it in terms of the focus of the decision, the level of decision making being the people involved, the scope of the decisions that they make, the time horizon, the level of certainty and uncertainty involved, the level of complexity, and then we'll look at a few examples of some of these decisions. So in terms of the focus of the decision, when we are talking about the strategic level, the focus of their decisions are usually in line with achieving competitive advantage because they look at the broader picture in terms of what is happening in the entire industry and in the entire sector, and look at what they can do as an organization to set themselves apart from the competition. Hence, the focus of decision making at the strategic level being mainly about achieving competitive advantage. Because if you do not have a competitive advantage, which will set you apart from other competing firms, you are basically a sitting duck waiting for the next firm that will come along that will kick you off and then take your place. So at the strategic level, their focus is on achieving competitive advantage. However, when we move to the tactical level, their focus of decision making is about looking at how they are going to implement the strategies for achieving competitive advantage that have been set by the people at the strategic level. Whereas at the operational level, it's about, like we mentioned, the day-to-day operations, what they will do on a daily basis to incrementally implement this strategy that the strategic people have come up with to help the organization achieve a competitive advantage. Now, in terms of the level of decision-making, at the strategic level, like we said, we see mainly the people involved in this decision-making activity being the senior management, or as we refer to them as the top management level people. And then we have the board of directors, which is usually made up of a diverse group of people with various levels of expertise who are capable of brainstorming and thinking ahead and looking at industry level factors to come up with these strategies towards achieving the competitive advantage for the organization. Now, at the tactical level, the people involved in the decision-making are mainly the managers, right? And then the heads of the business units and the heads of the functional areas, who can be able to look at the individual contributions of each unit towards achieving this competitive advantage using the strategy that the top management or senior management people have come up with. And at the operational level, it's mainly about the supervisory heads looking to the day-to-day activities that are being conducted to ensure that they fall in line with what courses of action have been detailed by the business unit heads, all collectively towards achieving the senior management strategy purposed towards creating the competitive advantage. Now, in terms of the scope of the decisions that are made, we realize that at the strategic level, the decisions that they make cover the whole organization from top to bottom. However, the tactical level decisions that are made usually cover the particular unit or functional area for which those courses of action are taken. So we can have decisions that are made towards the contribution of marketing to this overall strategy of the organization, towards the contribution of sales, towards the contribution of accounting and finance, towards the contribution of HR. These are all functional areas and business units who have been detailing specific courses of action towards achieving this overall strategy that the top management level have come up with. Because each functional area has a role to play, and they need to be able to know specifically what these roles are. Now, the scope of the decision-making at the operational level basically covers individual departments. So the actions that are taken in a particular department will not necessarily extend to another department, because the actions on a day-to-day basis are based on the implementation strategies that have been created for that particular unit. So at the end of the period, they will be appraised based on what work they have done towards the strategy that they were given to implement at that period of time. Now, moving on to time horizon, we can see that at the strategic level, given that their decisions cover the whole organization, the time period for these decisions are usually medium to long term. So like I said, they'll come up with a strategic plan by senior management and the board of directors, which could be a 2-year plan, a 5-year plan. I've seen some as long as 10-year development plans, right? All in a bid towards creating a strategy that the whole organization can look to and work towards over that period of time, be it 2 years, 5 years, or 10 years. Tactical decisions are usually in the medium term. So they are designed to fit into the medium to long-term strategic plan that has been designed. So they can usually range from months to years, given that they are fitting into the strategic plan that has been developed, which will likely cover a certain number of years. Whereas operational decisions are usually short to medium term. So they can be made on a daily basis, a weekly basis, and then at most a monthly basis, just to ensure that all the activities and tactics that they are engaging in are fitting into the achievement of the tactical decisions, which are more of medium term, and then will ultimately contribute towards the long-term plan that has been set by senior management. Kwame, please come in.
You mentioned duration, long term, and quite recently with the advent of a pandemic like COVID-19, which is badly hit the hospitality and tourism industry, do you think that we should be considering duration such as 10 years? That's one question. The second question is, maybe I'm jumping the gun, but with all these strategies, is there a measure or something that is used to monitor at the end of the day to make sure that they are achievable? Thank you.
Good. All right. So with your first question, with the onset of COVID-19, and will it be prudent to plan for 10 years? It depends on the kind of organization that you have, right? Now, it's better to have a strategic plan that you adjust and modify, which is a long-term plan, than to have no plan at all. Now, before COVID, a lot of organizations had put together strategic plans. And when COVID came, they had to take the plans that they had and adjust it to suit the current situation that they found themselves in. So they already had a plan, and they had to tweak certain parts of the plan in the short term to be able to ensure that they can be able to accommodate COVID. So you realize that UG's strategic plan is still the same. The main changes we have observed are at the tactical level and the operational level, where we can see that because of COVID, UG still wants to be a research-intensive institution. That has not changed. They still have a certain period within which they want to get to a certain level in terms of the university rankings. However, because of COVID, the approach to achieving this is what has changed. Kwame, are you with me?
I am, Doc.
Good. So they still want to be research intensive. That has not changed. They still have a period they want to achieve it. But at the tactical level, because of COVID, the way the individual units would have been able to do it, they can't do it anymore. So they've had to change plans. So for instance, the College of Allied and Health Sciences have had to adjust the way they go about training their students, the way they go about doing their practicals and their labs and writing their exams. The same for the business school in the College of Humanities and other departments. And on the operational day-to-day basis, we've had to change the way we have our lectures. We've had to change the way we give students assignments, the way we grade students. So you can still plan ahead. However, the plan has to be such that you can be able to modify portions of it at the tactical and operational level to ensure that you are in line with the changes that are taking place. That is why we talked about the different kinds of strategy. Remember, we talked about plans first. Then we talked about ploys. Then we talked about, which other one did we talk about? We talked about other ones, right? Patterns of behavior. Good.
Position and perspective.
Good. Yeah. So you can have the plan, the general plan, because the general plan is the ambition, is the big picture. However, ways to be able to achieve the big picture can change depending on your circumstances. Now, currently, if you are now going to draw your strategic plan as an organization in the hospitality and tourism sector, you would be asking yourself, why even plan ahead? The thing is, we have been told by industry experts and researchers that COVID is likely to, things are likely to return to pre-COVID levels in the next 4 to 5 years. So knowing what we know based on research and expert advice, if we are developing a strategic plan now, we are looking at what we hope to achieve by the time things return to pre-COVID levels. And once we have that big picture in mind, we ask ourselves, okay, now that the recovery process is ongoing, what do we have to do at the tactical and operational level to ensure that when things return to pre-COVID levels, we will find ourselves up there? Kwame, does that make sense?
Yes, please.
Good. So you do not want to wait. Otherwise, you may miss some opportunities that will come along that could have helped you to get to that level by the time things return to pre-COVID state. So long-term planning at this time, I would be all for, because it's always better to have a plan that you can tweak than to not have one at all. Kami, I hope that makes sense.
Very well, madam.
Good. Now, regarding the implementation process, remember I talked about the fact that in our next session, we will talk about the strategic process.
Yes.
Good. Now, before we go, then let me just give you a brief a brief on that so that you will be able to understand what to look forward to. So in terms of implementation, there's a whole level of the strategic process that has to do with implementation and evaluation. Now, the strategic process is in 3 levels. It starts with strategic analysis, which involves looking at your environment, everything that is going on there at various levels, both internally and externally, to identify strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. That's analysis. Now, based on the analysis and what you get from that level, you will be able to come up with a set of possible courses of action. Now, the next level of the strategic process is the process of evaluation and selection, where you evaluate all the various possible lines of action you came up with after you did your strategic analysis. And then you are able to select the courses of action that you will be able to take advantage of based on several factors, including the resources available to you, both financially and non-financially. Then after you select, the next stage of the strategic process is strategic implementation, where you go about implementing the courses of action that you have selected based on strategy. Now, as you implement, there are ways in which you evaluate the implementation process to ensure that everything is going as planned. In the event that things are not going as planned, there are measures you have to take to be able to come back and then re-evaluate the strategy that you have chosen by means of what we refer to as the feedback loop, to be able to once again come and analyze and see where things went wrong with regards to the implementation, and then redesign your strategy and then go back to implement again. So it's a whole cycle process that starts from strategic analysis to evaluation and selection to implementation, then through the feedback loop back to the start, and then it continues. Kwame, I hope that makes sense.
I'm very grateful.
Good. So tomorrow we'll delve deeper into that whole process, and I think everything will become perfectly clear then.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome, Kwame. All right. Still on comparing the kinds of decisions that are taken at the various levels of organizations, we can next talk about the level of certainty and uncertainty. Now, at the strategic level, because the decision taking goes into the long term and it covers an extended period, there's a high level of uncertainty, because the more you stretch the period over which the plan has to be implemented, the more uncertain things become. Like Kwame just asked, if you are planning over the long term, there is no way you can be able to determine what will happen in the next week or the next few months or the next few years, depending on how long your plan is. And COVID is a typical example of that. So with strategic decision making, there's a high level of uncertainty because the variables are myriad and they can change at any point in time because of the sheer duration over which the decisions are being taken. However, when we come to the tactical level, even though there's some level of uncertainty, it's not as much as at the strategic level because the duration is not that long. Therefore, even though there is some uncertainty, the organization has an opportunity to adjust itself and its courses of action to be able to respond to any uncertain events or risks that would come up, right? And then moving on to the operational level, there's a very high level of certainty because we are usually dealing with specific tactics or specific actions, which we can easily predict and easily change in the event that the variables shift or the event that things change. We can quickly go back to the drawing board and then take another course of action and implement it, unlike decisions that are taken at the tactical and strategic level. Once again, in terms of complexity, you realize that because the strategic decisions are taken over a longer period of time and cover the entire organization, they are very complex and have a lot of moving parts. Whereas when we step down to the tactical level, because the time frame is not as long as at the strategic level, and it does not cover the entire organization, but rather specific functional areas, even though they are complex, the level of complexity is somewhat moderate because the moving parts, though they are a lot, are within a confined space, say a functional area. So they can be managed to some extent. Whereas at the operational level, because the decision-making time covers a short period of time and is usually regarding day-to-day operations, they are comparatively simple when you are comparing them with the strategic and the tactical decisions. So it's about what to do on a day-to-day basis, the number of perhaps rooms that have to be filled on a particular day, or perhaps the amount of food that has to be prepared in the kitchen on a particular day. These are all simple day-to-day operations that have a high level of certainty and are comparatively simple, unlike the tactical and strategic decisions that have moderate and highly complex moving parts that have to be discussed and decided upon. And these decisions cannot be taken on a daily basis like the operational decisions, because they cover a wider number of units or departments and individuals than, say, the operational decisions do. So an example of a strategic decision could be a decision to launch a new product or enter a new market, or perhaps take over a competitor. These are huge decisions that have long-term implications, especially with regard to entering new markets and taking over competitors. So these decisions cannot be taken lightly. And once they are taken, they affect the entire organization. And that is why they are taken at the topmost level of the organization and involve senior management and boards of directors. Unlike tactical decisions like a decision to advertise or adjust prices or alter product features, these are more unit level or functional area decisions that can be handled by middle level management, right? So even though they are complex, the level of complexity cannot be compared to, say, the launching of a new product or the entering of a new market, because they can be able to be controlled within the medium term, ranging from a month or a few months to perhaps a few years. Another example of operational decisions could be the scheduling of work rotas. How many people should be at work on a particular day? How much food should be prepared in the kitchen? How many rooms should be occupied? Which ones should not be occupied? How much supplies should be ordered? And then how much inventory should be kept? All these are day-to-day decisions that can be easily taken. And the level of certainty with these is very high, because you either know how much foodstuff you want to buy or you don't. You know how many people you are preparing food for. You know how many people should be at work on a particular day based on the number of guests you are expecting. So generally, these are the kinds of decisions that are taken across the organization, from strategic to tactical to operational levels. And these are the dimensions that we can use to be able to categorize the nature of the decision making. So in the event that you are given a scenario, to be able to check or to decipher the kinds of decisions that have been taken and whether they fall at the strategic or tactical or operational level, you should be able to do so along these dimensions, right? Which is a precursor to the assignment you are going to get tomorrow.
Doc.
Kwame, please come in. Yes.
Yes, Doc. Question.
Yes.
Can an organization changes and
Pardon, Kwame?
Notwithstanding the number of, can an organization change its entire strategy?
Yeah.
So, for instance, an organization has a 10-year plan or 10-year strategic plan.
Yes.
Probably they have gone through just a year or two, then maybe something comes up.
Yes.
Or even if nothing comes up, there's a new board in place. Is
Yes.
it possible that the board, together with management, can change the entire strategy?
Yes, it's possible.
That is one. Okay. I wish you give me probably some reasons why. I was just going to ask that if for instance, an organization went so down, not in terms of money, but maybe reputation. Can that, as a result, lead to the change of the strategy? Okay.
So regarding the first question about whether an organization can change its strategy if there's a change of board of directors, yes. And I've observed this happen very often when there is some form of merger or acquisition. Usually when there's a merger or an acquisition, you realize that the composition of the board and then the senior management changes depending on the agreements that were made during the merging or acquisition process. So there'll be a totally new set of people in senior management. And reviewing the existing plan, they may be able to identify certain parts of the plan that are not in line with their vision, which we are going to learn about very soon, that every organization has a mission and a vision and certain values. Maybe there are specific elements of the plan that are not in line with the mission and vision and the values of the merger that has been formed. So there'll be a need to go back to the drawing board to redesign the entire thing, to be able to ensure that it conforms with the direction that the merger is going in. So that is one typical scenario in which a strategic plan can be redesigned and changed. With regard to your second question, please, can you say it again? You said?
That's even escaped me. I had something else in mind, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
that escaped me.
Please, can someone remind me?
Yeah, this is it. I said, no, it's on my mind now. If the reputation of an organization has been dented, can that change the strategic?
Yes, it can. Because reputation is a key element of a brand, right? Which drives business and everything. So if the firm has a reputation that has been so badly damaged and tarnished, they need to go back to the drawing board and create a whole new strategic plan, which will involve all activities that will redesign or reposition the organization and build its reputation from ground up. So yes, a damaged reputation can warrant the redesign of the organization's strategic plan.
Good. The very last question.
Please go ahead.
The very last question. Okay, so if you look at hotel, once upon a time, Movenpick Ambassador was Ambassador Hotel.
Yes.
So these changes, can these changes as well bring a shift or a change in the strategic direction of the hotel?
Yes, please.
Okay.
They can.
Okay.
I remember when Mobile and Total merged in Ghana. My friend was in top management at Mobile, and she was expecting to be the one to take over. She was head of, is it customer service, something like that. And she was expecting to be the one to stay in position as the head of customer service. However, when they merged, it seems Total had the upper hand in the merger. So it was all about Total and Mobile fitting into Total. So the heads of Total at that time were the ones who maintained their positions. And Total picked from the Mobile side to fill positions that were vacant in the Total side. So in that case, whatever strategic plan that Mobile had become null and void, because now it had to be redesigned to fit into that of Total. So it's the same with all the examples you gave, the Movenpick Ambassador Hotel, the Airtel Tigo, it's the same thing. Once the merger and acquisition takes place, depending on the terms of the agreement and who has the upper hand, there has to be a redesign of strategy to be able to find a common way forward for the new organization that has been created. Because the moment that happens, the old organization doesn't exist anymore. Once the merger or acquisition takes place, it's like a totally new organization has been created, because there's a new set of employees who now have to work together. So you need to be able to create a strategy to give them a sense of direction, for them to know where they are all as a collective moving towards. And then they can all work towards it. Kwame, I hope that makes sense.
Please, I'm clear.
Awesome.
Yes,
You're
please.
welcome. Okay, so that brings me to a very important point, and I think it's a follow-up on what I just said. in terms of the concept of congruence and fit. Tactical and operational decisions and objectives are made in a way that they are always aligned to the strategic plan of the organization. So as a matter of fact, tactical and operational objectives must always fit with the strategic plan or objectives. Because if they do not fit, there will not be consistency and there will not be a cumulative effort towards achieving the overall organization's objective or ambition. It will be like everybody is doing isolated actions which do not contribute directly towards achieving the plan or the ambition that has been set for the organization by top management. So in that case, for everything to fit together and work coherently, we need to introduce the concept of hierarchical congruence, where we are looking at the decision-making progressing in a hierarchical manner. However, it is proceeding in a congruent manner, such that decisions at the lowest level fit into decisions made at the middle level, and then they together fit into decisions that have been made at the top level. So whereas strategic decisions are few and far between, they cover the entire organization. So tactical decisions will be taken with increased frequency towards making sure that these decisions that have been taken, which are few and cover the entire organization, are being cumulatively achieved. And at the operational level, to ensure that these tactical decisions that are being taken with increasing frequency are being achieved successfully, the operational people must make sure that their day-to-day, weekly, and hourly activities are all together contributing towards achieving these tactical decisions that have been taken. So there is a level of congruence in that everything is going together towards achieving the pivotal aim, which is at the apex of the pyramid, being the plan that has been developed by senior management to cover the entire organization. So that way, no one has to go out of line and go contrary to the plan that we are all working towards. Otherwise, it will cause a lot of problems that would derail the organization from the path towards achieving this ambition that they have set for themselves. Hence, the importance of the concept of congruence and fit. Everything must work together in synergy, right? So on that note, we've come to the end of our discussion on strategy. So now let's look specifically at strategic objectives. Now, objectives generally are essential to the successful accomplishment of the managerial function in any formal organization. This is because, like I've been saying from the beginning, they provide a sense of direction for everyone in the organization, such that each arm, each unit, each employee knows exactly, what they are supposed to be doing at any point in time towards achieving a particular vision that has been set for the organization. So at any point in time, we all know where we are working towards. We all know where we are headed. And we know that whatever we are doing is supposed to contribute directly towards achieving this end goal that we have in mind. Objectives also provide a standard of measurement and a means of controlling performance. When we talk about a standard of measurement, many people in organizations know these as KPIs. So when they give you KPIs, especially in the bank, they are expecting you to achieve certain targets by the end of a period. Now, these targets are not just targets because they want to punish you as an employee or they want to overwork you, but it is because they envision that by performing these set of tasks at the end of this period, it is going to contribute towards achieving the overall objective that has been set by senior management. So it becomes a standard of measurement, such that if you are not able to achieve these targets that have been set for you, then it means that you are not contributing your part towards helping achieve this overall strategic objective that we have set. Otherwise, there's no way of telling whether or not people are actually contributing their quota towards achieving these strategic objectives that we have. Hence, the strategic objective providing a standard of measurement. It's also a means of controlling performance. Control in the sense that you get to evaluate the ongoing work that is being done towards achieving the objective. And by controlling, you are able to determine whether or not things are working in line towards achieving the objective, or things are not working properly. So through controlling, you can be able to evaluate. If things are not going well, you can quickly take preventative measures or quickly re-evaluate the strategy and come up with a new one that will fall in line with all the actions that are necessary to achieve the set objectives. Now, in the event that things are going on as planned, you continue to monitor to make sure that indeed they continue on that path and ultimately contribute towards achieving the overall objective of the organization. Now, strategic objectives also project an image of the organization's style. Every organization has a style of leadership. Every organization has a style of doing things. And these objectives help to be able to outline the organization's style. Depending on the kind of objectives that an organization has, you can be able to determine how focused they are. Like Mercedes was telling us right now about the banking institutions. They have strategic plans and objectives that they are set to achieve. And they are incrementally putting in place measures and tactics towards achieving these objectives. This gave us a sense of their style of management. This gave us a sense of how the organization wants to be perceived and their positioning in the industry. Likewise, if we see an organization that does not necessarily have a plan, they do not necessarily have a strategy regarding what they are doing, objectives they want to achieve, and how they are going to go about achieving this, we can also be able to conveniently judge their style and form a particular image about them, right? Hence, the importance of strategic objectives. So in that case, when we are formulating strategic objectives, there are two main forms in which these objectives can take. They can either be closed or open. Now, when we say an objective is closed, it means that it is stated in quantitative terms, and it is specific in terms of form and time scale. So an example of a closed objective: by the end of the first quarter, we want to achieve a 20% increase on the last quarter's profitability. In this case, we have quantitatively stated the form of the objective. So based on what I just said, what is the form of the objective? Let me take it again. By the end of the first quarter of 2021, we want to achieve a 20% increase in the profitability we had in the last quarter. So in this case, this is a closed objective. True or false?
True.
It's true.
Good.
True.
So what is the form of the objective?
Madam, is there a short term?
By the
short term is time scale, but I'm talking about the form. What form is it?
Is it closed? As in, it's closed or?
It's a closed objective, but what form is the objective taking? Remember, I said that we want to achieve a 20% increase in profitability.
Quantitative.
Quantitative, good. So it is 20% increase over what we had in the last quarter, right? And we are yes, expecting to do it by the end of this quarter. So what's the time scale? What's the time scale? What's the time scale?
Quarterly.
Okay, so what is the quarter?
3 months.
3 months.
3 months.
So within the next 3 months, we are expecting to make 20% more profitability than we did in the last 3 months. So that's an example of a closed objective, right? Now, the next type of objective we can have is an open objective, which is stated in qualitative terms and is more general in terms of form and time scale. So if we have a qualitative objective, for instance, that says that we want to become the market leader in the hospitality and tourism space, or we want to become the market leader in the hotel industry by delivering excellent customer service. It's an objective, isn't it?
Yes.
Yes, but the time form is more general, isn't it? It doesn't give you a specific time scale, does it?
Yeah.
Yeah. And the form is also very general. To become the market leader by providing excellent customer service. Very general.
Yeah.
And you realize that in comparing the two, open objectives are more flexible than closed objectives.
Sure.
Good. That is why you realize that the banking industry usually deals with closed objectives.
Yeah.
Have you noticed that?
Yes.
Open this number of accounts by this period. Bring in this amount
closed
of
one,
money.
what it does, no, the closed.
Yeah, Kwame, go ahead.
But don't you think the closed one gives you it makes you get your target easily?
Indeed,
For
it
me,
does.
you push.
Indeed,
you push
it does.
very hard. But when you are open, you are tempted to be relaxed.
Exactly. Exactly. Good observation. So you realize that a lot of the organizations that are very serious and focused will always use closed objectives. Because like you said, it will push people to work and they can be able to assertively say when they have achieved the objective and when they have not achieved it. If it's 20% and you didn't get to the 20%, you didn't meet your target. That's why the banking sector people are always under pressure. So very good observation, Kwame. So in this case, based on what you have said, as an organization, of the two, which one do you think is the best kind of objective that you should go for if you want to be able to achieve your ambition?
Close.
But at least it depends. It depends
No,
on your.
don't say it depends. You yourself have answered the question. Now you say it depends.
Is that
Come you answer the question. Now you say it depends. I know some organizations in Ghana here, when they give you the target and you don't meet them, you get fired.
Wow.
And there's always someone waiting to take your place. They have a whole binder full of like potential applicants. So the moment you're out the door, someone else is on their way in.
But disadvantages to that.
Yeah, there are.
If you ask me.
Yeah, there are.
I mean, humanly, they go a long way to sometimes cause a lot of problems for individuals.
Yeah.
That's just by the way, though.
Yeah.
It's kind of very
the
dangerous.
reality. That's why people in the banking industry are always so stressed out and they always want to retire early. Yeah. It's because of the level of close objectives they always have to meet. It's about target, and they are quantitative and they are specific.
Just to share a bit of what is happening in our sector now. When you go to most of the small hotels, the salesmen and women are suffering. I used to work in the East Legon Enclave, especially the hotels there. Most of the salesmen I sampled just for last week Sunday, and it looks like most salespeople have resigned.
Oh no!
Because there's a lot of pressure. I mean, the industry is already suffering, and management is saying that let's keep the place working. So do something.
Yeah.
Now, where is that something coming from?
Exactly.
That's something has to be done. And you know, when you put in place a closed what's it called, objective or strategy, it will be very difficult.
Definitely.
It's not possible.
Definitely. But could it also be that it is a tactic? So here's the thing, Kwame. I know some organizations usually do this to get people to quit rather than firing them. Some organizations will do this to get you to fire yourself. So it's not like they sacked you because already they can't afford to pay you. So give you outrageous targets, you don't meet them, you resign yourself, and then it's a done deal.
Dog.
Yes.
It looks like GCB. I think this kind of giving a deadline to the salespeople to go out and look for business. I think GCB, people think that because it's a government organization, they walk in. People just walk in, so they don't. I spoke to their operations, one of the operations managers at Trade Fair.
Yeah.
And she told me that she advised me that if I want anything to do with a bank, maybe work with any of the banks, I should try. Because you are not asked to go and look for business.
Interesting.
Because people walk in. She was just giving me the gist. Yes.
Interesting. And it's mainly because of GCB's reputation.
Yes.
It's the reputation. That's how when Kwame asked the question about when your reputation falls down to ground zero, do you have to redesign your strategy? Yes, because the reputation is everything. That is why GCB just gets people walking in and they don't struggle. Because they have a reputation of being a reliable bank. Such that even if depositors have issues, because it's a government bank, they'll be sorted out. They'll be cushioned. So people feel comfortable with the bank. So it's all about their reputation. So I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised at all. So it all goes back to the kind of organization and what their objectives are. Perhaps these closed objectives are supposed to make sure that they achieve a kind of ambition at all costs at a certain period of time. For other people, it may be for other reasons. Like I was saying, perhaps they are doing these strict closed objectives to get some of the workforce to voluntarily remove themselves from the organization. It could be a million other reasons. That is why strategizing is so important. Because you are thinking ahead and planning ahead. So they will not see it coming. In their mind, they will be thinking at a tactical and more operational level. These objectives are too much, I can't meet them. Then they resign. But the strategy level, that was what was planned. Please, I hope that makes sense. At the strategy level, they had thought of all that. That's why they get paid huge per diems for going to those board meetings and senior management retreats. Because the kind of thinking they are doing. Well, I hope that answers your question.
Yes, please.
Great.
Yes, please.
All right. Okay, so let's talk about the hierarchy of objectives. Okay, Mercedes, your hand is up. Please go ahead.
Yes, Doc, you just made a very nice statement by saying that's why they are giving huge per diem. I think it's very true, because when you look at, like I said, we are doing some corporate governance for some of these banks. And when you look at their strategy, you realize that a lot of thinking goes into it. And I think they are being.
Yes, please.
I think it's good when you sit down and then you plan for. Yes.
Yes, please.
Hey, Doc, this clearly shows that Mercedes is really enjoying this benefit.
Oh,
Mercedes,
no.
I mean,
She's an independent. I think she's an auditor.
She's only working.
I'm not there yet.
You defend it.
You say you are not there, so it means that certainly you one day be there, take some of these strategies. Oh my God.
So yes, one day I have to be there. I really have to be there to enjoy.
Go by. In as much as is work, okay, and we need results. Sometimes the boards and various decision makers should also consider the human aspect. You see, for instance, we're in a pandemic. Should some of these things hit industries like the hotel for boards to be taking decisions such as this? I mean, let's sometimes look at the human aspect. We have to pay.
They are not in for the human aspect, though. They are in to make the money. However,
anyway, this is business anyway.
Good. The loans have to be serviced. The salaries have to be paid. The overheads have to be covered. So it's very sad. That's why they said if you are very empathetic, don't go into business. So there's an Ashanti saying like that. Say they be out boka.
Yeah.
All right. So let's talk about the hierarchy of objectives. Right. So objectives in an organization are often portrayed as a hierarchy, right? Based on the discussion we just had about the strategic level, the tactical level, and the operational levels of decision making. So when the objectives are being formulated, they start from the top and they trickle down. Now at the top, at the strategic management level, we have what we refer to as the mission, which is the overall enduring purpose of the organization. Right? Then as we come down, we have what we refer to as values, which are also formulated at the strategic level, but trickle down to the tactical level, which is basically about how managers and employees should conduct themselves in order to help achieve the mission. Then we have the vision, which is the desired position that the organization is trying to reach or achieve, right? So the overall enduring purpose of the organization is their mission. And the values are how the managers and employees are supposed to conduct themselves to achieve this mission. And the vision is the future position that the organization sees itself, right? And beyond the vision, we have what we refer to as the corporate objectives, business objectives, unit and personal objectives, all of which are at the operational level. So the mission and values operate more at the strategic level. The vision operates at the tactical level. And then the corporate objectives, business unit objectives, the personal objectives, all operate at the operational level. And these are about how the mission and vision are translated into specific targets for each of the people at the operational level to ensure that all the mission and vision that the strategic and tactical level is looking at is achieved. So like we mentioned earlier, these cascade down the hierarchy of the organization from the strategic level all the way down to the operational level. Now, looking at the hierarchy of objectives, we can once again break them down in terms of focus, type, and time scale, right? Depending on the kind of objective we are looking at based on the hierarchy we just considered. So we said that the mission is developed at the strategic level, right? And here it covers the overall organization. And usually the type of objective that the mission is an open one rather than a closed one. Because of the way it covers the entire organization and its high levels of complexity, we cannot afford to make it closed because there are so many moving parts, so many different variables. So it is open, and the time scale is usually the long term. Now, still at the strategic level, we have what we call the values, which is how the employees are expected to carry themselves and behave. These, once again, also cover the entire organization and are also open because of the various moving parts and the different levels of complexity and uncertainty. And they also cover a long term. Next, we can talk about the vision, which is developed at the strategic and tactical levels, even though most of the time it's focused at the strategic level because, again, the vision covers the entire organization. So the vision will look at how they are expecting the mission and the values to be achieved. And once again, this is also open because it is covering the entire organization. And even though it's medium to long term, has several moving parts and complexities, and therefore is also open to be able to give those at a tactical and operational level the freedom to be able to come up with various objectives to be able to ensure that they can achieve this vision. Now, still moving down, we can talk about the corporate objectives. And these can be formulated at the strategic level where they are often designed. However, those at the tactical level can also engage in some level of formulating corporate objectives, right? Given that the actions at the various departments and functional areas affects the overall actions of the organization. So because of that, when we are talking about corporate objectives, some of them are closed and others are open, depending on whether they are being formulated at the primary level or the secondary level. And once again, the time scale is medium to long term. Whereas business objectives, which have to do with specific business units in the organization, formulate only closed objectives. And the time scale for these are medium term. So like we said, quarterly objectives, 20% of profits for the retail banking unit, 30% of profits for the corporate banking unit. These are closed objectives over the medium term. Then we have the unit/team objectives, which are usually made at the operational level. And these are short term, right? And they are also closed. So there's a specific target that is given to a particular team. You can usually see this happening with the sales and marketing teams. A particular team is given a certain target to sell a certain volume of products over a certain period of time. And this is usually in the short term. Then at the personal level, we have objectives that usually cover individuals. So as an individual, employees can design their own objectives that will help them to be able to contribute towards achieving specific unit or team objectives. And these are also usually closed and occur over the short term. So you realize that some organizations, to be able to motivate individuals to perform better by setting personal objectives and achieving them, will always award and reward individual team members by creating commission-based targets. Please, I hope we've observed these two before. So depending on how much you are able to bring in of the team target, you earn a certain commission. Kwame, please go ahead.
Oh, Doc, I'm sorry. It was a previous.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
All right. Right. So to be able to encourage more personal level objective formulation and achievement, they will institute commission-based activities to encourage more people to contribute on a personal level towards achieving the team objective. So as we cascade down the organizational hierarchy, this is the nature of objectives, flowing from the apex, like we saw in the pyramid, at the strategic level, all the way down to the operational level. Now, the more we cascade down, the more closed the objectives become. And the more we cascade down, the more short-term the objectives become, right? So let's bear this in mind. And that is it for the hierarchy of objectives. Now, let's specifically look at mission statements and what they must contain. Now, given that a mission statement covers the entire organization, there are certain characteristics it needs to have to be able to achieve its purpose of motivating people to work towards the ambition that the organization has set for itself. Now, there are several characteristics that a good mission statement must have. The first one is that it should have some indication of the industry or business that the organization is mainly concerned with. It should also have an indication of the realistic market share or market position that the organization aims towards. It should also give a brief summary of the values and beliefs of the organization in relating to key stakeholder groups, such as customers and employees and other stakeholders, including policy institutions and governmental organizations and other regulators of the sector in which the organization finds itself in. And with regard to the hospitality and tourism sector, we have various organizations, right, including the Ghana Tourism Authority, right, and then other individual stakeholders in the sector, including the Hoteliers Association, among others. Also, a mission statement must have an indication of the ownership or control of the organization. It should also have a summary of the geographical location or scope of organizational activities. And then it should also have a specific and highly context-dependent set of objectives. Now, each mission statement will not have all these, but it should have a good number of these to be able to qualify as a good mission statement. So in essence, if it has all these characteristics, how should these characteristics put together be presented? They should be presented, first of all, in a concise manner. Mission statements should not go on and on and on and on. Even though some mission statements are quite long, they should be concise so that they'll be easy to be able to communicate to audiences and for the audiences to remember. They should also be clear and point directly to the goal that the organization has in mind. Otherwise, you will always have to try and explain it to your audience. Now, any mission statement that you have to explain to people before they get is not clear. People should be able to understand it without you having to discuss or present it or explain it to them. The mission statement should also have a future orientation. Remember, we talked about the fact that it is open and long-term in scale. So it should not be something that consists of a one-time specific goal or productivity target. That is reserved for the lower levels of objectives at the bottom of the hierarchy, where we have the corporate objectives and the personal objectives and the unit/team objectives. So mission statements must be more of open, long-term goals that are clear and concise, and will take an organization some time to be able to achieve. Mission statement should also be stable, right? Any short-term trend should not be able to change a mission statement around. That was why we talked about the fact that the strategic plan should be such that it is designed to cover the organization. And in the event that there are any short-term changes, operational and tactical decisions can be quickly implemented and designed to respond to these short-term changes, rather than going ahead to change the entire strategy, which covers the whole organization. So that being said, we are saying that mission statements should be flexible enough to weather the various fluctuations in the industry and its context. Also, sorry, a moment. Okay. Also, moving on to visions. Visions also carry a similar characteristic in the sense that just like the missions, they should be concise, they should be clear, they should have a future orientation, and they should be stable. Like we explained with the mission, these are open and long-term in nature. So they need to be able to weather the various fluctuations that are going to happen in the short term. So they should be designed such that they are clear enough and have a future orientation to enable operational and tactical decisions to be taken to fit into this overall vision that has been created using corporate level objectives and units and personal level objectives, which will together contribute towards achieving this mission and vision that has been set. At the same time, too, they should be challenging. Visions that are effective are challenging because they motivate staff members to try their best to achieve desired outcomes. If you have a mission that is so basic that no one has to work towards, it will not motivate workers. Like we said, closed objectives have the ability to push employees to their limits. And these objectives are designed to be able to fit into specific missions and vision statements. So if the mission and vision is not challenging enough, you will not be able to come up with unit or business level objectives that are challenging enough to be able to motivate staff members to work towards achieving the desired outcome. At the same time, too, visions have to be abstract. Abstract in the sense that we talked about the fact that they are long-term in nature. So they should be open to allow for individual interpretations so that individuals who are working at the tactical and operational level can be able to independently come up with specific tactics and courses of action to work towards achieving this general vision that has been created. And finally, it should be desirable and have the ability to inspire. Like we said with regard to challenging, if the vision is not powerful enough to inspire people, to make them desire to work towards it, it will be very difficult for you to get your employees to buy in and work towards achieving it, because it is not something that inspires them. It is not something that makes them desire to give off their best, because perhaps it is too simple, too basic to make them interested in. Mercedes, please go ahead.
Same as purpose.
Mercedes, please, I can't hear you.
Please, I'm asking if vision is the same as purpose. Hello?
Yes. Mercedes, I'm here with you.
Yes, okay. So I'm asking if vision is the same as purpose.
Okay. So what did we say a vision was? We said it is a desired future position, right? That the organization is trying to reach or achieve. Now, a purpose could be both short-term and long-term. Do you agree?
Yes.
Good. So a purpose will be a simplification of what a vision is.
Okay.
And usually a purpose is not designed to achieve the characteristics of desirability. It's not designed to be challenging, is it?
Okay.
Good. So a purpose is kind of like a task that has to be achieved.
Okay.
And a time frame within which it should be achieved. But a vision is more than just a purpose. It's like a call to action, which must have the ability to. Yes, Kwame.
Then, Doc, we'll say that it is not the same at all.
No.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome, Kwame. All right. So on that note, where were we? Okay, yes. So like we are saying, the vision must have the ability to challenge your employees. It must have the ability to inspire them and make them desire to work towards it. And at the same time, too, it should be designed such that it allows for individual interpretations to make your employees creative, to come up with strategies and techniques to be able to work towards achieving this great ambition that you have set for them to work towards. So on that note, let's look at an example of mission, vision, and value statements and see if they meet the criteria that we have just talked about. So this is Residual Hotel Group's mission, values, and vision, right? Now, these are excerpts from it because it's a very long document which cannot all be presented here, but you can go to their website and read the rest of it, right? So Residual defines its mission simply by means of a simple, easily recalled statement. Remember, that's one criteria that we talked about, that it has to be easy to recall and for people to understand, such that you do not have to explain to them before they get it. And in their case, it is providing unique, yes, I can service. That is their mission. Now, the simple mission is aligned with several supporting statements, which is also a common approach among several organizations, particularly in the hospitality and tourism sector, right? So in this case, the supporting statements are its vision and value. So like we said, in the hierarchy, the mission comes first, and it is supported by the values and then subsequently by the vision. So Residual's vision, which is what it wants to be known for, stresses the passion of its hoteliers, that it is responsive and innovative, that it wants to be viewed as the most dynamic hotel company in its territory of Europe, the Middle East, and Africa, and that it wants to be the preferred hotel group to do business with. Can we call this a purpose? Can we call this a purpose, ladies and gentlemen? Yeah, it's way more than that.
No, it's not a purpose.
Exactly.
Okay.
So here, this is where they see themselves. They see themselves as passionate hoteliers who are responsive and innovative. If this is not a call to action that will make your employees desire to work, I don't know what is. Because responsiveness and innovativeness to be viewed as the most dynamic hotel company in their territory of Europe, Middle East, and Africa. And they want to be the preferred hotel group to do business with. That is their vision. And what values do they want their employees to have in order to achieve this vision? They are saying that, one, being hosts, which is concerned with being professional, responsible, and being focused on service levels and delivering what the brand pronounces. You see the kind of words they are using. If you are an employee and you see this and it doesn't challenge you, I don't know what is. Please, I'm going to look for the meaning of pronounces. I haven't seen this word before, ladies and gentlemen. Please, does anyone know what it means?
I'm even looking for it already.
Hey, this is a big word, though. It's not even in my dictionary. I don't know where they got this word from. I don't know where they got it from. It's not in my dictionary. But it's in their values. So as an employee, they have created a word for you. What the brand pronounces. Hey, it's really a call to action. And listen to this. It seems they were just trying to be creative. Listen to the next statement. Its values continue through fighting the Z spirit. Its values continue through fighting the Z spirit. Please, what is the Z spirit? Which it defines in terms of speedy decision making and being innovative. So perhaps the Z is being slow or being like sleepy. Because Z's are associated with sleeping. Or
is it not a term that's related with a hotel? The
perhaps,
Z.
fighting the Z spirit.
No, don't you think the word is rather prognosis and probably it's a typo?
Are you sure?
Let's see whether it will make the sentence. Just put prognosis
and
in
delivering
the
what the brand prognosis. No, it doesn't sound like.
No. Why would you choose the word that exists?
Doc.
Yes, Gloria, please go ahead.
Yes, so I just want to share some view on this. I've worked with this company.
You work with Residence Hotel?
They have some pillars for their workers when you join them.
Come on, tell us.
Yes,
tell us.
It's the same as the Radisson Blue Hotel.
Wow.
Yes.
Tell us. So what are some of the pillars?
Yes, so we have 7 pillars. For the 7 pillars, it's meant for the guests. So as a worker in a hotel, you know that you give the guests a memorable experience. That's one. You serve them with the yes, I can spirit.
Wow.
That's the
yeah, we have that one here. The yes, I can.
You know,
it's
give
here.
The guest.
Yeah.
Yes. And then we have another one, which is where we work whilst it's something like we have fun whilst working. Like although we are stressful, although the work is tedious, although that we still make fun. Like you don't frown, you don't, yes. So those pillars ginger you, the worker, to do whatever you have to do to give the experience to the guest.
Wow.
To walk into the hotel, within 1 minute, nobody will attend to that guest.
Wow.
Even the general manager can serve a guest when he meets a guest.
Wow.
So in the hotel, there is no one, a guest cannot know who is a manager, who is a general manager, who is just an employee.
I think it goes back to the first pillar of the values, which is being host. So everybody is a host.
Yes, please.
Wow. Ladies and gentlemen, they are living the vision and the mission.
This hotel, every day, like in our briefing, they make us to mention the pillars, the values of the hotel, so that it's ringing in your mind, so that you don't make any mistake.
Come on.
Yes. You don't make any mistake.
Kenyan hotel, who does this anyway? But Kwame, do you do this at your place?
Not in Ghana, in Dubai. In Dubai. Dog, in Dubai.
Thank you for sharing, Gloria. This is huge. So at least we know that this is the standard that we are supposed to live up to as professionals in this industry. It can be done because, as we have just observed from Gloria's example, thank you for sharing, Gloria. It is being done and people are achieving results because this hotel is not a small hotel, right? I just found that the proteosis, it's actually a scientific term. There's some organism called proteosomes. So perhaps the word came from that organism proteosome. Interesting, right? So that is the mission, vision, and values of Residor Hotel Group. And bear in mind, I was looking for the mission and vision of hotels in Ghana for this class. I struggled. You go to the website of hotels and you don't see their mission, vision, and values. What you
Very
see,
unfortunate.
yes,
very unfortunate. They don't have it.
They don't.
We don't have it.
Exactly. I was about, they don't have it because if they did,
We don't have it. We don't have it.
Ladies and gentlemen, they don't. And I was so disappointed. They rather have room rates.
Absolutely.
And the kinds of rooms they have. And I'm like, I want to see how your vision and mission plays into all these rooms.
Have you just have you? No, Doc, have you perchance looked even the hotel's website? Have you seen a hotel's website? See anything about us?
No.
Do you see anything like about us?
The about us that you see is about how plush their rooms are, and even that one you have to look for it on the website. You have to find.
Exactly. These days, what you see is book.
Yeah,
room type. Those are the things you see.
Hey, Kwame.
Yes, it is.
Very true, please.
Are you sure?
I am very sure. So just tell
they don't
me
all of them, but for majority. For majority, even the multinational ones that are operating in Ghana.
You.
Ruth, is that one that you can find there about us?
Yes, I even have to go and check first before I come and confirm.
Some of them have their about us, but you will struggle before you find it on the website because it's not priority. Some of them you have to scroll all the way to the bottom.
I don't know if Aqua Safari. I think I was reading something about it. You know when you start working.
Yeah.
A lot of things about it. I think I saw about us, but I don't know if it's still there. So I have to go and confirm.
So whether the about us has the vision and mission in there. That's what we are talking about.
For a lot of them, the about us is there, but there's no vision and mission.
I think it's only the international or the international brand hotels that have it, but the local hotels.
My sister, I checked some of the international ones. You know, La Palm Royal is being run by, is it Accor Hotel? You go to their website, mission vision is not there. They have about us, no mission and vision.
I think La Palm, they are having a problem.
Labadi Beach,
they are having some difficulties.
Labadi Beach, the same. Accra.
But Doc, I think Kempinski have it. Kempinski have it.
They have about us, but they don't have mission and vision.
No, even the Kempinski, Doc, even the Kempinski, it's not localized.
Exactly, it's a multinational one.
Sure. We are talking about the local setting. I mean, what's happening in Ghana here?
Exactly.
We don't have.
The Kempinski, they don't make their decisions locally. I think because it's international brand.
Yeah. But technically, they
have to have that's the reason why they don't have a local.
Yeah, but they have Kempinski in Ghana. They have a Ghana page.
Yes.
So when you search for Kempinski Ghana, it will take you to the local
it
page.
Should take you to the local. Even it should probably first take you to Africa. Then African to yes.
No problem. But anyway, that's why you people are here. You will be the change agents. So your ambassadors, you go out there and bring the change.
we hope to. We hope to.
Okay, let's look at another one.
Are you sure when you share this view, your people will take it?
After they see your certificates, they'll start listening. Okay, so this one is the mission, vision, and values of Visit Florida. And their mission is just one sentence: to promote travel and drive visitation to and within Florida. And their vision is to establish Florida as the #1 travel destination in the world. I think they are getting there with the spring breaks and stuff. Even Ghanaian celebrities are filming themselves in Miami, Florida. Please, have you seen them? If you Schwarzenegger, Shatawale, they are all going to Miami, taking videos and posting on Instagram. They have arrived. So that is the vision for Visit Florida, right? And then their values. They don't put it in statement form. They have individual words to represent their values. Their values include integrity, excellence, innovation, inclusiveness, welcoming, fun, and teamwork. So they have put the words there and they are leaving it to interpretation for individual employees. So if you see excellence, you need to interpret excellence across every single thing that you do. Integrity across every single thing. Likewise, innovation, inclusiveness, welcoming, fun, and teamwork. So these are the vision, mission, and values of Visit Florida, right? Now, beyond the mission, vision, and values, we also talked about the corporate level objectives, right? Now, when it comes to corporate objectives and the characteristics that we use to distinguish good corporate level objectives, there's an acronym we use that sounds to the word crime, right? So we say that the common view is that corporate objective writing is a crime. Crime in the sense that C stands for communicable. It should be capable of being easily communicated down the line to the workforce and other internal and external stakeholder groups. R, it should be realistic, capable of being achieved within the time scale, right? I, it should be internally consistent. Remember, we talked about the fact that whatever objectives are set at the lower level of the pyramid have to be in congruence with all the other objectives that have been set all the way up to the apex. Because decision-making flows from strategic management level all the way down to operational level. So the operational level objectives have to be consistent with the overall strategy that has been set at the strategic level as well as the tactical level of the organization. M, it should be measurable, because if you cannot measure what you are doing, you will not be able to determine whether or not you are on course towards achieving success or you are off course. So measurable means that you should be capable of quantifying these objectives you have created, hence the closed nature of these objectives, so that you can be able to measure them and determine whether you have achieved them or not, and be able to control them to ensure that you are back on course towards achieving the overall strategic objective. And then finally, E, it should be explicit, written in clear and unambiguous language. Because if it's a closed objective and it is not clear, it is not specific, and it is not unambiguous, employees will always add their own interpretations, which will make achieving them difficult. So they should be precise, right? And be in relation to both the targets that have been set and the time scale within which they have to be achieved, such that given that they are closed, if it's supposed to be done within a 2-month period at a certain percentage, this should be clearly stated in relation to how it will cumulatively contribute towards achieving the overall strategic objective, right? And with that, we've come to the end of our session.